So this is the first question we are doing on budgeting area. Okay, and overall this question is talking about learning curve. Getting it? But there are many other concepts also which we will discuss here, which we have already seen from your learning outcome statement. Okay, so my friends, how many requirements are there? If you see, there are 7 requirements. So in your exam there will be 2 essay questions, and each essay questions can have 4 to 5 or 8 requirements, depends. Okay, the more the requirements, it is an easy question for you. Okay, like for example, if there are 8 requirements, so it will be more easy for you as compared to if there are 5 requirements, because if there are less requirements you need more effort. If there are more requirements, they will ask many questions, a lot, you know. So it will be easy for you to do 8 requirements as compared to 5. This is what I uh, think, you can say. Getting it? Anyways, so first of all, you will read all the requirements. You will not read the scenario. Okay, what is the first thing you will do? You will read all the requirements to know how many requirements are there and what is being asked. So you can plan accordingly. Okay, so maybe you don't know requirement number 1 and 2, but you know 3, 4 and 5. So first you will solve 3, 4 and 5, and later on you will come to 1 and 2. Getting it? Okay, so what is requirement number 1? They say by using the cumulative average time learning curve, okay, estimate the total number of labor hours, total number, that are required to manufacture the first 4 units of this product, and we need to show the calculations also. So from here you got to know the question is on learning curve, and we need total hours for 4 units. Okay, 2. Then they say assume that the learning curve is 90%. I will tell you in a while what is the meaning of 90%. Okay, they say assume 90% is realized. It means this happened actually. Calculate the cost savings in producing the 3 additional units. If the cost of labor is 25, show your calculations. So we need to see the savings. Okay, again some calculation is there. Okay, what is question number 3? They say define budgetary slack. Remember in your learning outcome statement I was telling you about this learning the budgetary slack. Okay, what are the 2 negative effects which can have on the budgeting process because of the slack? Okay, this is a pure theoretical question, no calculation is required. Okay, then in question number 4 they are saying okay, we have 1740 hours, okay, to produce the 4 units. Actually this happened, the cost was this much. Now they say if you ignore learning curve, okay, if you ignore it, ignore requirement number 1 and 2, calculate the labor rate variance and labor efficiency variance. Now if you remember, in the budgeting area we don't calculate variances. Variance comes in section C of your syllabus, which is performance management, sorry. But to show you here, if you see in the same essay question, they can target different areas of your syllabus. They have given you 3 requirements from section B, and the 4th one is coming from where? Section C. Getting it? But we will not leave it. We will do it right away because it is not so difficult, and I will also guide you how to solve it. But again, when we will come in section C variances, I will explain you again about these variances. Okay? How would the above 2 variances will differ if you consider the learning curve? Okay, so in requirement number 4, first of all, we need to calculate the variances if we ignore the learning curve, and then we need to calculate the variances if we consider the learning curve. Okay, we have to show the calculations. Assume that the price variance, this is a theoretical area again on variances. I will read it later on for you. Okay, then they say explain the effect of the labor efficiency variance if there is 80% learning curve. So because before they were talking about 90%, now they are talking about 80%, and they are saying what will be the effect. Please note, here they told you calculation, calculation, calculation. Here they are not saying calculation. So please don't calculate. Getting it? See, you just need to write a sentence. No calculation is needed. Identify and explain one limitation of learning curve. That's why I told you for every method we do, you need to know the limitations and advantages. Because they will ask like this always. One limitation, two limitation, this and that. Anyways, let's see the scenario. So you got to know this question is basically covering the learning curve area, the budgetary slack, and variances. A little bit of variances. Okay, 3 topics are covered in this essay question. Okay. Then they say the company is a manufacturer of motorcycles. Okay, manufacturer of motorcycles. The company used 500 hours, labor hours, to produce a prototype of a new motorcycle for one of its key customers. Prototype like a model. Okay. Please note new. New means in the new product, normally we use more learning curve. I mean, learning curve is mostly used for a new product, because we need to know, okay, if we make it for the first time, how many hours are needed? If we make it for the second time, how many hours are needed? Getting it? So that's why the topic is there. The customer then ordered 3 additional motorcycles to be produced over the next 6 months. The company estimates that the process for these additional motorcycle is subject to 90% learning curve. What is 90% learning curve? It means if you make the motorcycle for the first time in, for example, 100 hours, the next time you will make it is on 90 hours. Getting it? This is called 90% learning curve. Okay, instead of 90%, if the company is saying you 80%, how much? 80%. It means what? It means for the first time you will make the motorcycle in 100 hours. For the second time you will make the motorcycle in 80 hours. Okay, tell me in the chat box, 90% learning curve is more tough or 80% learning curve is more tough? Because this is a target. You know, this percentage is like a target. Assumption. You know, we are assuming that second time the motorcycle should be made in 80 hours. If you say 80%. So 90% is more tough, or 80% is more tough, or 70% is more tough, or 60% is more tough. Getting it? So what you got to know from here? The less the percentage, the more tough you are making it for the labor. Because they may not be able to make the product in that many hours. Got the point, my friends? Please write it. The less the percentage, the more tough is the target. Very nice. Although the production manager was aware of the learning curve, right, he decided to ignore the learning curve. Okay, when compiling the budget, he ignored it in order to provide a cushion. Okay, why they are telling you about this thing here? Because of requirement number 3. Okay, let me make a star here. Okay, this is related to requirement number 3. Why? Because they are providing a cushion to prevent exceeding the budgeted amount for labor. So they say, you know, if we will incorporate the learning curve, the target will become more tough and maybe not easy to achieve. So what they did, they said ignore the learning curve while making the budget. What is this? This is called budgetary slack. What is this? This is basically called budgetary slack. Okay, what is budgetary slack? Let us see first requirement number 3. Budgetary slack means 2 things. If you are a manager working in cost area, you will try to make a budget with a high cost. Getting it? Because you are getting the budget, right? So for example, you are a production manager or you are a procurement manager, you are a learning and development department manager. Getting it? You are a research and development department manager. So you need budget for this. So what is your objective? You need as much as possible, right or not? You need as much as possible so you can stay within those limits, right or not? Easily. You can easily achieve the budget. So this is called budgetary slack. Overstating expenses. Getting it? What is budgetary slack? Overstating the cost. Other side. Now assume you are a sales manager. You are a sales manager. Okay. Now what's your fear actually? Your fear is you may not be able to achieve the target set for you. So for example, you are in a car company. They told you you have to sell 1000 cars in this year. Getting it? So what will be your comment on this? You will say, no, sir, the market is not good. Because of coronavirus also, the market is not good. So make it less. Let me try for 600 cars. Getting it? So they will say 600 is very less. Okay, you take 800. So sell 800 cars. Getting it? I mean, at least it's becoming easily achievable or not? So the story is understating the revenue. So two things: overstating the expenses if you are on the cost side, understating the revenue if you are on the income side. Okay, this is called budgetary slack. Okay, if examiner is asking you what is budgetary slack, you cannot write only this, that overstating cost and understating revenue. No, you have to write full. You will write like this. I have written for you already. Okay, you will write, okay, it is a practice. I will share with you this Excel sheet, no need to write. Practice by the budget owners to understate the revenue or overstate the expenses. Why? To make the targets easily achievable. This is the word you have to use. This point is very important, this one. Getting it? If you don't write this, the definition is not complete. Because you need to tell them why they will understate the revenue, why they will overstate the expense. Why? To make the targets easily achievable. Okay, so this is the answer for budgetary slack. Now remember, they asked you two negative effects of the slack. This question is not complete yet. They say identify and explain two negative effects this can have on the budgeting process. So what you will say? You will say, okay, the two negative effects. Please note here how to write an exam. This is the way to write an exam. This one. Okay. If they are asking you that identify and explain, it means you need to identify by writing a heading and then you need to explain it in a paragraph. If you don't do this, you will not get full marks. Okay. Okay, what is the point exactly? Exactly, you see, two negative effects. It means problems. First of all, it will mislead your top management. How? Because see, you are underestimating the revenue. It will mislead the top management or not? Definitely. Like, top management was expecting $1 billion revenue, but you understated the revenue. Now they are expecting less revenue. Getting it? Which is not correct. Because manipulation is in one of the budgets. See, you manipulated the sales budget only, but it will have effect on all the budgets. It will affect the production budget. It will affect the purchasing budget. It will affect the labor budget, material budget, everything. Okay. This we will do in the coming classes when we will create the manufacturing budgets. Remember, I told you this area, this one. So when we will do this area, you will see how all these budgets are dependent on the sales budget. Getting it? This is what I am talking about right now. Because based on your sales budget, definitely you will decide how much to produce. Right or not? Based on your production, you will decide how much material to purchase, how much labor to recruit. Getting it? All these things. Okay, what is the second problem of budgetary slack? Inefficient resource allocation. Because when I'm saying, see, what is the feature of budgeting? Why we make budget? Because we need to allocate the resources. Getting it? If there is a overstatement or understatement in any of the budget, the resources will not be allocated properly. Getting it? Maybe where resources are needed, you didn't give to them because the other department has created a slack for you. Like for example, uh, you know, like we talked examples like production department, purchasing department, learning development department, research development department. Okay, so purchasing and production, they created a lot of slack. I mean, they overestimated the expenses so much that you gave more resources to them and you have very little left for research and development. Getting it? So this is called inefficient resource allocation. You don't have money, so you definitely have to cut the budget for research and development, maybe, depends, or vice versa. Research and development created a slack, so you diverted more funds there. Now you have very few funds left for production and purchasing and learning and development. Getting it? So these are the 2 points, my friends, you need to remember. Now see, some students, what they do, they write here inefficient resource allocation. They are very smart, and then they write, it may lead to inefficient resource allocation, full stop. I mean, this is the description. I hope you are getting my point. I mean, you are writing a heading, inefficient resource allocation. Below in the paragraph, you are also writing it may lead to inefficient resource allocation. You are wasting your time because you are writing the same thing again. This is not explanation. What is explanation? See this red color, due to. I mean, you are explaining why. The why behind this is the explanation. Getting the story? So this is required in exam, and this is called essay writing skills. If you have these skills, you can easily pass the exam. If you don't have these skills, you need to develop these skills by writing, by doing maximum question practice, by making notes. Okay? Very nice, my friends. So we have completed this question number 3. Let us see question number 1. Okay. See, learning curve is a very simple area. You have 3 columns. How many? 3 columns. Okay. Number 1 column is called the number of units. The second column is called cumulative hours per unit, and the third column is called total cumulative hours. 3 columns. Now see this yellow highlight, what I have done for you. This 90%, remember they said there is a 90% learning curve. And they said we made the first motorcycle in how many hours? We made the first motorcycle in 500 hours. So I wrote 500 here in the middle. See, this is cumulative hours per unit. So 500 hours per unit. Okay. Now the third column is total cumulative hours. Right? If you remember in the requirement, they said calculate total number of hours. They are not asking you per unit. If they ask you per unit, you will only make the 2 columns, these 2 columns, that's it. If they ask you total hours, so you need to make all 3 columns, because this is our requirement basically, the third column, because total hours is the third column. Okay, so what they asked you basically, let me remove this, hide this, so it can be clear for you. Let me explain this first and then I will unhide this. Okay, just focus on this right now. So again, first of all, there are 3 columns. The first column is called number of units. The second column is called cumulative hours per unit. And the third column is called total cumulative hours. In this question, examiner asked you total hours. So we need 3 columns. If examiner is asking per unit only, so we need 2 columns only. Getting it? Okay, now he is asking total hours for how many units? Remember? For 4 units. How many units? 4 units. It means this is my requirement. This green color is my requirement. If he asking you 2 total hours for 2 units, then this is my requirement, this 900. Getting it? If he is asking you total hours for 1 unit, this 500 is my requirement. Getting the story, everyone? Okay, so you need to understand what is our objective. Now see, to make one motorcycle, we need 500 hours, right or not? So 500 I wrote here, also 500 I wrote here. Why? Because definitely I am talking about one motorcycle only, right or not? So when I am talking about one motorcycle, per unit and total will be same or not? Same, because one unit. In learning curve, there is an assumption that every time when the unit will double, learning curve will happen. Okay, this concept is based around this assumption. Again, what is the assumption? Whenever units will double, learning curve will happen. If you see here what I have done, below 1 what I wrote? 2. Because 1 2s are 2. Then you see I didn't write 3. Why? Because I told you we need to double the units. So 2 2s are 4. Below this what I will write? 4 2s are 8. Below this what I will write? 8 2s are 16. Below this what I will write? 16 2s are 32. Then 64. Getting the story, everyone? This is how learning curve goes. See what I have written here, limitations. So basically, this is a limitation. If examiner is asking you what is the limitation of this analysis, you will say, this analysis is based on the assumption that every time the unit will double, learning curve will happen. And this may not be the case in reality. This is the limitation of this analysis. Okay, please write yes in the chat box if you got the point. So my friends, the second assumption of learning curve is this percentage, 90%. So we say, okay, we are assuming that the second unit when we will make 90% learning curve will happen. It means what? You will take 90% of this amount. If you see the formula bar here, what I have done for you, I have multiplied 500 with 90%. Getting it? And the answer is coming how much? 450. Then when you go next, you will multiply 450 with 90%. Getting the story? Or not? So for example, if I write here 8 now, 1, 2, 4, 8, okay? So what I will do here, I will take this figure and I will multiply this with 90% to get the answer here. Getting the story? But I will not do this. Why? Because the examiner asked you to go till how many units only? Till 4 units only. So I will stop my working here. If examiner is asking you 8 units, I will stop my working here. Like this. Okay? And okay, one more thing. How to get the total figure? This column. This column is basically the multiplication of the first 2 columns. This and this. So when you multiply these two, the answer will come like this. Okay? So I'm removing this because this is not required. So you can see this 1620 how I got. I multiplied 405 with 4 to get this answer 1620. And this is the answer, by the way. This is the answer of our question, that we need 1620 hours to make 4 motorcycles. Okay. This is called learning curve analysis. Now my friends, let me unhide what I have hidden for you. Okay, what is the second requirement? This is the first requirement, what is the first requirement? They asked you how many hours are needed to make 4 motorcycles. So we told them 1620 hours are needed to make 4 motorcycles. Okay, let me go back to the question. Now they are saying assume that 90% learning curve is realized. What are the savings? Because if I don't consider learning curve, can you tell me in the chat box how many hours are needed to make 4 motorcycles? If I ignore learning curve. Let me ignore learning curve. Very nice, 2000. How you know 2000? Because 500 for one motorcycle. So for 4 motorcycles, how much? 2000. Right? Now tell me, how much is my labor cost if I ignore learning curve, you will say 2000 multiply by 25, right or not? If I ask you how much is my labor cost if I ignore learning curve, you will say 2000 hours are needed and the labor cost is 25. So 2000 multiplied by 25, right or not? Okay, calculate how much is coming. Tell me. 2000 multiplied by 25. Where is 25? It is written in requirement number 2 here. See, we pay to the labor 25. Okay, now tell me, if we consider learning curve, how many hours were needed? Remember, we just calculated. I think it was 1620, right? Multiply 1620 with 25. How much is coming? 1620 into 25. How much is coming? 40,500. Very nice. So can you tell me the saving? What is the saving we made? Very simple, right? You just compare both the figures. The answer will come automatically. First we calculated 50,000. Then we calculated 40,500. What is the difference? 9,500. Very nice. So this is the answer, my friends. This is how I calculated 9,500 for you. Okay, so this is the answer for question number 2. First of all, you will see, okay, how much is my cost without learning curve? Then how much is your cost with learning curve? And this is your savings. Easy, difficult? Write in the chat box. Very easy concept, this one. Question number 3 we have already covered. Okay. Now we are going for question number 4. Okay. In question number 4, actually this is a very big paragraph. I will break it down for you again. They are saying you now we have executed the work. Okay, we have manufactured 4 motorcycles. And actually how many hours the labor has spent? 1740. Okay. So you know already that we calculated 2 different types of hours. We said, okay, if there is no learning curve, we are giving you 2000 hours. If there is learning curve, we are giving you 1640 hours or 1620, whatever it is. Getting the story? So what do you think, my friends? If I ignore learning curve, the labor has worked efficiently or not? Tell me in the chat box. If I ignore learning curve, the labor has worked efficiently or not? Yes, they have worked efficiently because I allowed them how many hours? 2000. And they took how many hours? 1740. It means that they worked efficiently. Right? This is one angle. Now the another angle is you consider learning curve. And how much was learning curve? Remember, it was 1620. So I say, now tell me the labor is efficient or inefficient. What you will tell me? Getting the story, everyone? So now we say, okay, labor, we allowed you only 1620 hours and actually you have taken more. You are inefficient. Actually, in reality, you are inefficient, not efficient. This is the difference, my friends. Getting the story, everyone? Very nice. Okay. Okay, tell me one thing. Learning curve analysis has anything to do with the rate we are paying to the labor? Learning curve analysis, what we are doing this right now, this has something to do with the rate we pay to the labor? No, right? The rate is same, 25. There is no change in the rate. It means learning curve analysis will affect only efficiency variance, not the rate variance. Okay, let me tell you in more detail. Okay, see this now. This is the 4th question, okay, for you. You will not understand it like this. Let me first of all tell you. Okay, this, by the way, what I have done here for you, this one. This I wrote all 3 hours for you. See, hours without learning curve 2000, hours with learning curve 1620, and the actual is 1740. This is just I discussed with you. Getting it? I just plotted the figures to use. Right or not, my friends? We know these three figures or not? We know them, right? And what is this figure? 44,805. This is the total actual labor cost you paid to them. How I got to know this 44,805? This is given in the question. This one, 44,805. Getting it? So my friends, first of all, you need to understand variances. What is a variance? Basically, variance comes in when you compare your budget with actual figures. Okay? What is variance? You budgeted, okay, we will take 2000 hours. Actually, we took 1740 hours. So the difference is called variances. Variance. Okay? Now there are different types of variances which you will study in your section C area separately. Some are related to material, labor, variable overhead, fixed overhead, sales. Many variances are there. In this question, specifically, they are only asking about labor variances. And there are two types of labor variances. One is called labor rate variance, this one. And the other one is called labor efficiency variance, this one. Okay. In the labor rate variance, we talk about the rate. We said, okay, how much is the labor rate we decided? And how much is the labor rate we actually paid to them? Getting the story? So tell me in the chat box, how much is the labor rate we decided we will pay them? Remember, how much rate we will pay them? It was written in the scenario, remember? They say 25. This is the rate we will pay them. This is called standard. What is this? Standard. We need to compare this rate with the actual rate we paid to them. How to know how much we actually paid to them? Can you tell me how much we paid to them actually? So what you will do basically, you will take this figure 44,805 and you will divide it with 1740. So you will get your actual rate. Right or not? Everyone. So this is basically I have done already for you. If you see here, I divided 44,805 with 1740 and I got the answer how much? 25.75. So actually we paid them more, right? This is good or bad? Tell me. This is good or bad? Good for the labor, right? They got more money. But not good for the company. So when we write good or bad, we need to talk from the company point of view, not from the labor point of view. Remember this. Okay, some people, they are very emotional. So they write an exam from labor point of view. Getting it? So they talk about labor rights, you know. So don't think from labor point of view, think from company point of view. So this is not good because we paid them more. Okay, how to get this 1305? If you see the formula above, how to calculate labor rate variance? First of all, you take the standard rate, which is 25, minus it with the actual rate, which is 25.75, and then multiply with the actual hours to make it in total, you know. So how many were actual hours? Remember, 1740. So we got to know that the variance is how much? 1305. And why red? Because this is not good. When variance is not good, we call it unfavorable. When variance is good, we call it favorable. Okay, this is in exam also you have to use these words. Please write yes in the chat box if you got labor rate variance. Now we will study labor efficiency variance. In labor efficiency variance, what is the formula? First of all, you need to know how much is allowed. How much is allowed to them. Okay. Okay. We know already how much is allowed. Remember? If we ignore learning curve, 2000 is allowed. If we consider learning curve, 1620 is allowed. I hope you remember this. Again, if we ignore learning curve, how much is allowed? 2000. If we consider learning curve, 1620 is allowed. Okay. So see, I wrote here 2000. If no learning curve, see here, assume no learning curve. So I wrote how much? 2000. Assume learning curve. So how much I wrote? 1620. I hope you people are getting the story. If no learning curve, 2000 is allowed. If learning curve, 1620 is allowed. So no confusion here. Okay. I need to compare it with what? With the actual hours, of course, how much they actually took. So remember, they took how much actually? They took 1740 actually. In both cases, same. Of course, this will not change. No matter you assume there is learning curve or no learning curve, there will be no change on actual results, right? And finally, you will multiply this with what? With the standard rate. Why we need to multiply with the standard rate? Because we need the answer in dollars. Getting it? This is the reason. So we got to know that, okay, the labor efficiency variance, if we have no learning curve, it is 6,500 favorable. And if we have learning curve, it is 3,000 unfavorable. Got it? See these two things, please, right now only. Again, if we have no learning curve, remember we discussed this in the start. I told you, very nice. It's good, right? I gave to the labor 2000, they worked only 1740. So I said you are very efficient. And that's why it's coming 6,500 favorable. But the other angle when we saw, we told them, my friend, we gave you only 1620 hours. And you have taken how many hours? 1740 hours. This is not good. You have taken more hours. You have wasted the resources. So 3000 unfavorable. Anyways, my friends, the question now. Let's get back to the question. They told you calculate these both variances from both perspectives. Getting it? They told you, okay, the company actually took these many hours, and if the company ignore learning curve, calculate both variances, and then they say how would these variances will change if you consider the learning curve. So we have done both of them. First of all, we told them if we ignore learning curve, what are the answers, and then if we assume learning curve, what are the answers. Okay, if you see here, my friends, these things, please see this highlighted area. Can you see any change? Is there any change in the labor rate? This is labor rate variance, this one. It means you got to know that there is no change in the labor rate variance, no matter you consider the learning curve or you ignore the learning curve. This is what I asked you in the start, remember? Will there be any change on the rate? You said no. And this is the answer. There is no change, definitely. Okay, it means if examiner is giving you an MCQ, this is statement. Learning curve has no impact on labor rate variance. True or false? What you will say? Learning curve has no impact on labor rate variance. True, because it will be same. No matter you consider the learning curve or you ignore the learning curve. And this is the proof in front of you that it is 1305 negative unfavorable in both the situations. Okay, and I have written here for you also, no change to this variance there, and this variance will change. Okay, now see my friends, why I wrote like this, because examiner is asking you how would these variances differ. Getting it? He is not only asking calculation. So please don't just give the calculation and move on. No, you have to tell them labor rate variance will not change, efficiency will change. It will become unfavorable this much. Because see, the way they are asking the question, you have to reply in the same manner. Getting it? What they are saying, how would these variances differ? So you will say, if learning curve is considered, there is no impact on the labor rate variance, but the efficiency variance will become 3000 negative, unfavorable. Okay, in variances, please don't use negative, positive. This I will again remind you when we will do variances in detail. Please write yes in the chat box if you got this point. Okay, see, if you are having difficulty understanding this concept, no problem. Okay, just leave it. Okay, because this will come again in variances, and then you can come back again here and you can revise it. Okay. Anyways, so let's see what we have next. They say question number 5, assume that the price variance, by the way, please write it, rate variance is also called price variance. Okay, same thing, is unfavorable and efficiency variance is favorable. Identify one reason that will explain this. Okay, identify and discuss one reason that will explain this. So for example, when I say rate variance is not good. Like in this question, remember, in this question, we thought we will pay them how much? 25. But we paid them how much? We paid them 25.75 more. So this is not good. Why we will pay them more? They are asking why you will pay them more. You have extra money in your pocket, that's why you are paying more. This is the reason? No, right? You cannot write this reason. Give me a reason. Very simple. Why you will pay them more? Very simple. The labor is skilled. The labor is skilled, more skilled. Because when we created the standard, for example, we thought we will hire unskilled workforce. But in reality, we hired skilled workforce. So we will pay them more or not? This is the reason. Okay, tell me one thing. If we hire a skilled workforce, they will work more efficiently or not? That's why what will happen? The efficiency variance will be good or not? See, two impacts, both impacts. You pay them more because they were skilled and they worked more efficiently. So see, the rate variance is not good, but the efficiency variance is good. Like this. This is one of the reasons. Give me another reason, please. By the way, they only asked one reason, but you need to know more reasons also. So give me another reason. Anyone? Okay, the second reason may be I paid them more because I want to motivate them. I want to motivate them. I paid them more, they got motivated and they worked efficiently. Think about it. You paid them more, they got motivated, they worked more efficiently. This is also possible. But the story, everyone. So when you paid them more, the rate variance is not good, but they worked efficiently, so efficiency variance is good. So for both of these I have written here for you. If you see here, this is unfavorable, this is favorable, right? So unfavorable means what? You paid them more than the standard. And efficiency is good means what? Labor took less hours than allowed. This is the description to understand this. What are the reasons? I wrote here for you. Higher skilled labor, right? So skilled labor will be efficient or not? Yeah. And then increase the rate of the existing labor, motivation will come. Getting the story, everyone? So these two reasons are there. Okay. Okay. Now see, I wrote here for you. Don't write like this in exam. I mean, this is for you to understand the points. So I wrote below how to write in exam. You will write like this. The reason which could explain this relationship can be hiring skilled labor who are paid more rate and in return getting the work done in less hours. This is the way to write in exam properly. Okay? Don't write like this. This is only for your information I wrote. This one. And again, no need to write all this. This is only to explain you. You only need to make one sentence for question number 5, which is this box below here, this one. Please write yes in the chat box if you got the point. Okay, the last two we will finish them quickly. The sixth one, they are saying you, what is the effect on efficiency if 80% is used? Remember this, I discussed with you in the very start. We discussed the less the percentage, the more tough it is. Getting it or not? Let me do a sensitivity analysis for you. Okay, instead of 90%, I am writing here 80%. Please look at this figure. When I will press enter, look at this figure. How much is coming? 1280. Getting it? From 1620, it became 1280. It means the target is more tough now. Getting the story? This is allowed basically. This is the allowed hours. So do you think efficiency variance will become more unfavorable if I use 80%? Definitely. Like for example, let me do it again. I put here 80%, it came 1280. This 1280 I will keep here. Here, 1280. Okay, right now see how much was there? Minus 3000. Unfavorable. Okay. Let me press enter and you see how much it will become. 11,500 unfavorable it will become. Hearing the story. So again, they are not asking you to calculate. They are just asking you what will happen. So you need to remember this, that if the percentage is reducing, the efficiency will go more down. I mean, it will become more unfavorable. Okay, so this is we wrote here. The lower the percentage of the target, this variance will become more unfavorable if 80% is used. You are not supposed to tell the figure here exactly how much, but I told you how to calculate it. It's very simple. Okay, if in case they ask you calculation, you can do also. By the way, Excel sheet is not allowed in your exam till now, so you have to use Notepad. Okay, so this sensitivity analysis you have to do manually. In the notebook they will give you, you have to do it in your calculator. Okay, but you know, mostly you will find theoretical, uh, like this question, although this is given in the IMA package, but don't expect so much calculation. Okay, but it can come, you never know. But mostly, you know what is the feedback from students these days? Mostly it's more theory focused, because these things normally they cover in MCQs. Okay. Okay, what is the last question of this essay? They say one limitation of learning curve. You know already. Remember I told you in the start, two limitations. What was the first one? Remember? The first one was these when the units double, learning curve happens. This is a limitation. The second limitation is this percentage itself. It is your estimation, you know. So I wrote here both of them. Percentage itself, it is based on assumption, and the assumption that every time the units will double, this is also a limitation. Got it, everyone? So this is the conclusion of your essay question, Coe Company.